I don't believe for a second that those journalists were not targeted. I think journalists are being targeted in Gaza. They're not allowing international journalists to report on the ground, to enter the Gaza Strip, unless, of course, they're being accompanied by IDF soldiers. And hundreds of journalists have been slaughtered in Gaza. Every single time it happens, Netanyahu comes out and says, oh, it was a mishap. And the United States just forgets about it and moves on, continues providing more bombs. First, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that the double strike on the Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis in Gaza, which killed at least 20 people, including 5 journalists, was just an unfortunate mishap. It was an accident. You know, people make accidents like that all the time, right? Where at least 20 people were slaughtered. Well, now he's claiming that the IDF carried out the violent and deadly attack because they believe they saw a Hamas surveillance camera at first. And even though it was a mishap, they allegedly killed 6 Hamas combatants. Now, I don't buy any of that, and I'm gonna explain why. Luckily, and this is a nice change of pace, it looks like the Associated Press is also questioning the narratives coming from the Israeli side of this situation. So, as the Associated Press reports, Reuters cameraman Hussam al-Masri was killed in the first blast, the first attack, while filming from the site, according to a fellow journalist and a doctor at the hospital. So the Hamas surveillance camera was just a camera belonging to a journalist. That was the first journalist that got killed in the first strike. But as I mentioned, it's a double tap. That's what made the video of what happened so unbearable, so disgusting. And we're gonna show you that video again, so just prepare yourselves for that. But a Hamas official denied that they had a camera surveilling the IDF and told the Associated Press that if this claim about a Hamas camera was true, there are many means to neutralize this camera without targeting a healthcare facility with a tank shell. Now, whatever you might think of Hamas, that statement is undeniably true. So the idea that they're going to use use a tank shell in order to neutralize a camera, that's ridiculous. Like at this point, even the establishment corporate media can't stomach the brazen lies, because they lose credibility, whatever's left of it, if they just regurgitate and repeat the insane talking points coming out of the IDF and the Israeli government. By the way, a little backstory to all of this. Netanyahu first came out and said this was a mishap, unfortunate mishap. The IDF got upset that he said that publicly. And so now all of a sudden, oh, there were 6 Hamas combatants. Sure, there were. So hospital officials say that the second person who was not identified was also killed. A second person who was not identified was also killed in the first strike. So I wanted to mention that as well. But what about that double tap? Like, what is the excuse? Meaning, the second strike that was carried out by the IDF as rescue workers, family members of patients at the hospital, and other journalists arrived on the scene. And if you don't remember what I was talking about, this is what I was referring to.
مقصود لهذا الزميل الصحفي حسام المصري.
لا حصل الآن خليك يا الله، راح الدفاع المدني قتلوا الناس، راح الدفاع المدني قتلوا الناس، استهداف كبير الآن.
The Associated Press reports that no one on that staircase was seen holding a weapon. You guys can all see it for yourselves. These are the first responders after the first strike happened. The military released its initial findings into the strike, offering no immediate explanation for striking twice and no evidence for an assertion that 6 of the dead were militants, including 2 who were identified by their employers as a healthcare worker at the hospital and an emergency services driver. The dead also included 5 journalists. How much more evidence do people need to finally understand, realize, and process the fact that these are intentional killings of innocent people? When you look at aerial images of the Gaza Strip and you see it leveled, every single residential building, every single school, every single university, every single hospital, every single refugee camp, when you see the videos like the one that I'm showing you right now, how are you gonna look at that and make the argument that they're just going after Hamas? They leveled Gaza, they destroyed it. 83% of the people killed are civilians, and that's according to internal IDF data, as reported by Israeli publications. 729. Read it for yourselves. The idea that we're all idiots and that like the Israelis are so much more sophisticated than us. We're just dumbasses that can easily be lied to, and we'll soak up their slop and believe their garbage lies is so insulting. It's the most insulting thing that I have to stomach every single time I do the show. And for the longest time, people reporting for the Associated Press just regurgitated the lies. You know, one side saying this, the other side is saying that. You decide. No, how about you guys do your jobs and do accurate reporting? It looks like finally, for the first time in the Associated Press, we are getting that. They're like, oh, well, you know, Israel is claiming that they killed 6 combatants, but wow, they didn't provide any evidence. Yeah, how is this any different from all of the other controversial bombings and shootings we've covered? None of this is enough to convince Scott Jennings. Let's go to the video.
If you take this story at face value, bomb a camera, kill 20 people as collateral, and then say, as Netanyahu said in a statement today, that this was a tragic mishap.
Yeah, I think they said also 6 terrorists were killed in the attack. We've heard. How do you know?
I know it's BS because of the IDF's internal documents, which indicate that 83% of the people killed there.
You know for a fact that there weren't any terrorists.
I'm not going to sit here and regurgitate the lies from the Israeli government as they're conducting a genocide.
So we've had even if there were 6 terrorists killed in the strike, there were 20 people killed total. So there were a lot of people who were killed who, according to Israel, were not terrorists. 5 of those people were journalists. The second strike occurred when there were aid workers coming to assist people who had been caught up in the strike. That's what I'm talking about.
So look, Abby Phillips wants to be as fair as possible. I'm past the, I'm gonna be fair to the Israelis as they've been caught lying to us again and again and again. I'm not interested in that. Now, if they provide evidence, great. But since there is no evidence, there isn't a shred of evidence that there were 6 Hamas combatants killed in that double strike, I'm not gonna regurgitate their BS lies, okay? If people are uncomfortable with that, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that I was just supposed to repeat one side's BS arguments when they haven't provided any evidence whatsoever. I'm not playing that game. One of the journalists killed was a contractor for the Associated Press, by the way. Maybe that's why they're finally doing their jobs and throwing cold water on evidence-free claims made by the IDF. The military did not elaborate on why it struck a second time or how it would have identified militants among the crowd on the staircase. Among the 6 people killed Monday that Israel claimed were militants were Jama al-Najjar, a healthcare worker at Nasser Hospital, and Imad al-Sar, a driver with Gaza's Civil Defense Agency. So the very people that they keep calling combatants tend to be, you know, journalists, doctors, healthcare providers, important people that would help document the war crimes that Israel is committing. Important healthcare workers that would try to keep wounded Palestinians alive. You know, the very people that this genocidal government would have all the interest in the world getting rid of, so they can carry on with their war crimes, with their ethnic cleansing, with their genocide. Without offering evidence, Israel has in the past, this is the Associated Press, identified emergency responders who work under the Hamas-run government as militants to be targeted, including in the killing of 15 medics in March when Israeli troops opened fire on ambulances in southern Gaza. That is the reality of the situation. Entire groups of humanitarian aid workers, medics, journalists, they've gotten so brazen that they try to kill like a few of them in one fell swoop. A little later in the show today, we're gonna show you more of my exchange with Scott Jennings on CNN. So you have that to look forward to. But I really do wonder how people like him sleep at night. Like, does he just regurgitate Israel's lies because he's afraid that he might get targeted the way that people like me are getting targeted right now? Is he worried about career opportunities being taken away from him? I don't know, but how do you live with yourself just, casually repeating the lies of a military or a government that has killed so many innocent people? 83% of the people killed in Gaza, civilians, innocent people. Unless, of course, you don't see Palestinians as people. And I suspect that there are, unfortunately, a lot of people in both Israel and the United States who think that way. And that causes so much pain in my heart. I don't know how anyone can be capable of dehumanizing anyone or any group of people to that extent. But unfortunately, those people exist. And I have to think about them and deal with them every single day. It's the most black-pilling thing in the world.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.